test. Gotta see how loudly I can talk.
Hi, hello, welcome.
Smile like that.
It's a regular smile.
It's crystal clear, we've been figured the struggle straight along the way, but having you by my side makes everything okay. We're watching video clips of all types of laughing out loud, we really hate this crowd, and we don't know where to go, hopefully take it slow. Lots of hustler minds will reject the decline, our approach to life and that, well that's just fine. We wanna let others live because it's none of our business. We press your chest upon our mess. There's so many minds, hey, I'd like to align. See beyond this place, we want a part of this race. We do what we can, you better tough out, man. You're about to pass out or get a pick for the cloud. Why is it so hard out here? They made it so weird. Try to stay woke and humble and joke. It's f***ing hard out here.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of It's Hard Out Here. I'm Joel Morales.
I'm Karen Ayala.
And today we have a very special guest with us, Joey Rodriguez from 10th Planet Austin. He is a purple belt under 10th Planet Austin, and he's also a manager there at the site location. He's been one of the figures that has been very welcoming of us, and he's part of the reason why we enjoy that community so much and we feel very much a part of and supported there. So thanks for joining us, Joey. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, hell yeah. I guess first things first, man, let's talk about, so where are you originally from?
I was born on a Marine base in California, Camp Pendleton.
Okay.
My dad was in the Navy, and he was actually stationed in Pearl Harbor, and he met my mom over there. But she's from Southern California, so she was from like an hour away from Oceanside.
Okay.
And they ended up getting married in Oahu, had my sister there, and then moved to California because it was cheaper, had me there.
Oh, wow.
And then moved us to Texas whenever I was 4.
Yeah. Wow.
So I don't really have much memory of California.
Sure.
My sister does, but we used to go back and visit, but I don't have memory living there.
No, not at all. Yeah. Okay. Do you have any, like, maybe just like some images of, I don't know, the ocean side or something like that?
Nothing.
Nah. Yeah. That's
Oh,
crazy.
Only the memories when I was a little older, going out there to visit my grandma and
Yeah,
other
okay.
family, because my mom's whole family is still there.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Okay. And you're the babies of the family.
What's that?
You're the baby of the family.
Well,
The youngest?
Yeah, kinda.
Okay.
We can talk about that in a little bit.
Okay.
Okay.
I'm kind of. I was originally the baby, then I was in the middle because
got-
more
okay.
people added.
You got
Oh,
booted.
cool.
Yeah.
Okay. So y'all came to Texas. Did y'all know anybody here? Have family here, or? It's just,
Yeah, my dad's family was here,
Okay.
so it was like the southwest part of Houston and Richmond.
Okay.
And yeah, my dad grew up there. I think
Oh.
his mom, my grandma, may have grown up in Eagle Lake, which is not that far from there, kind of out in the country.
Yeah. I've heard of it.
I don't really know much. My sister could tell you more. She's dug into the whole ancestry and like looked everybody
Oh,
up.
for real?
Yeah, so she knows where everybody's from, but
Yeah.
I don't really know off the top of my head.
Yeah. No. It's all
Oh,
good.
Ziggy says
Yeah,
hi.
my cat's waking up or something. I don't know. Yeah, so Richmond, right? That's said where you. So you grew up there, for the most part. Yeah. What was it like growing up there? What was that like?
It was fun. There was a lot of kids my age in the neighborhood, or like in the same age range, I would say, like
Yeah.
plus or minus 3 or 4 years. So there was always, now there's like no kids outside, but it was one
Yeah.
of those neighborhoods where you couldn't drive down the street without having to go like 5 miles an hour because kids are doing everything in the street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And, just in general, riding bikes around as a kid, skateboarding, rollerblading, BMXing, stuff like that.
Yeah. So you did all the extreme sports stuff.
Yeah, I did. I actually got pretty good at rollerblading. That was the one that I stuck with the most.
Yeah.
What I liked about it was I could do acrobatic stuff. And so on a skateboard, I mean, maybe 20 years in of skating your ass off, you can get to a point where you can do flips. But it was a lot easier to do flips on rollerblades. And I had always
Right.
enjoyed doing flips on like trampolines and on the ground and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Oh,
it was cool.
Did you ever do like any gymnastics or anything like that? It's kind of.
What's funny
Similar.
is my mom did when she was younger, and I think she was like a gymnast in high school if I remember correctly. And she taught me how to do a flip flop, just like a back handspring.
Yeah.
When
That's
I was
cool.
pretty young, and then I started doing flips off of stuff.
Right.
So I think the first thing I did was like put a mattress down, and then
did a backflip off the fireplace onto the mattress.
Yeah.
And then I figured out I could do it like off of picnic tables and stuff. And then I started
Right.
doing it off the fence.
Dang.
Then I started doing it off the roof. And yeah, I was kind of like before parkour was like a huge thing, but I
Right,
just used to
yeah.
do stupid stuff like that. Yeah, it was not, I mean,
Yeah.
not safe by any means.
No,
Did
probably
you
not.
break anything?
Doing that stuff, surprisingly, no. The highest thing I ever jumped off of, it was like a fence and a half, basically. It was like a really tall
Yeah.
fence, so like maybe like 10 feet plus.
Okay.
And I did a backflip off of that into like the angle of a ditch, which was really stupid.
Yeah.
So I went
Get
past
that
where
momentum.
level ground was,
Okay.
and ended up landing it, but then just like rolled down the ditch.
Yeah. Dang. Dude. And it was concrete?
No, it was
Okay,
grass.
grass, okay. Well,
But
that makes
still,
it a
I mean,
little
it was,
better.
it was really high, and it was higher than the roof of a house. It was dumb.
Yeah. I mean, when you're younger, though, you can take those impacts a
sort
little
of invincible.
easier.
Yeah, you bounce back a little
Bounce back,
quicker.
yeah,
Yeah, it's so
exactly.
strange, man. And now, like, I don't know, because I was doing similar things
Yeah.
too, because I was really into like professional wrestling, you know, like WWF
Oh, yeah.
and all that. And so, yeah, I got a trampoline, and like from there, the rest was kind of history. You know, that's when I really started doing flips off of things and practicing that kind of stuff. And I did a little bit of gymnastics in high school, so I learned how to like properly do them, I guess you could say, and then also just do it on the floor, you know, opposed to
Yeah.
like off of things. But it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, I don't know why I started doing that. I couldn't tell you why. I also could run up the wall and do a backflip. That was pretty
Yeah.
cool. I haven't done that in like 20 years, but I
Yeah.
probably could still do it because I can still do a backflip on the ground.
Yeah, a lot of it's just like technique, really,
Yeah.
right? And as long as you can remember and execute the technique properly, like you're probably gonna be okay. Yeah, they always had a saying in gymnastics, like if you reach for the floor, you're gonna hit the floor.
Yeah.
Like just stick it, you know, follow
Yeah.
through with the technique, and you should be good.
Well, that's some good information. Yeah.
But so, how old were you when you started doing that kind of stuff, like rollerblading and bike and all that?
Man, I did it young. I think I got my first pair of rollerblades for Christmas when I was like in kindergarten. And
damn.
I remember at my grandma's house, that was like the first time I remember getting like a huge confidence boost from people around me because a bunch of the other cousins had got them too. And like I was immediately very comfortable on them. Like I had done it before even though I hadn't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was like jumping off and like doing little 180s and stuff. And
Yeah.
I just like had a natural ability for it. And I remember everyone being like, man, you're like really good at that.
Right.
You know, have you done that before? And then my parents were like, no, he's never done it. And
sick.
I kind of stuck with it. And ended up getting into like aggressive rollerblading, like at the skate
Yeah.
parks where you're like grinding down rails and stuff.
No way.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Did they have a lot of parks in that area at the time?
There was several in Houston at the time,
Yeah.
but the closest one to us was called Dex.
Okay.
And me and my friend Sky, he's done a lot of commercials for 10th Planet, and
Oh, right on.
he's involved with some of the other martial arts in Austin.
Yeah.
But me and him both were actually on this little sponsored team at Dex where we got to skate for free.
That's
no
cool.
way. That's awesome.
Oh, so
Yeah, it
it
was
was pay
cool.
to like skate?
Well, they didn't pay us, but we got like a huge discount in the pro shop, and then we got
Oh.
to skate for free. So
yeah.
you normally had to pay to go skate at this indoor park.
Park. Okay.
And it was crazy, huge. They had like professionally built ramps, a giant bowl,
right. Right.
like crazy stuff, you know, like
Can
a
I
whole
ask,
street course.
What year was this about?
Probably 2000. Yeah, probably like 99 to like
Oh,
2007. I think they shut it down.
Yeah, that's cool.
Something like that.
You didn't get picked on like for rollerblading because rollerblading was like not the cool. thing.
I actually have a funny story about that.
Yeah.
I did, but I was doing crazy shit on those to
Yeah.
the point where most of the kids that were talking shit not even compare on a
Yeah.
skateboard what I was
Yeah.
doing on rollerblades.
Right on.
I had gotten really good at doing this like inverted 540, so I would go up and basically start to spin in the air,
Mm-hmm.
turn around and do a front flip and come back down and land the same way. And anytime, even if I didn't land it, when I was like learning to do that, the skateboarders would shut up just because
Right.
they weren't doing anything crazy like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was doing it on the half pipe. It
Yeah.
wasn't like I was doing it off a little ramp. Like I was like 13, 15 feet in the air.
Yeah. That's wild, man.
Yeah, I got decent at that, but I actually broke my collarbone doing that one time.
Oh,
The 540?
Yeah, and I knocked
Yeah.
myself unconscious. It was in between sessions, and a lot of us that were like, it was stupid, but it was kind of like a trendy thing to not buckle your helmet. So you would just like leave the straps hanging, right?
Yeah.
Which is completely pointless if you take like a super hard fall. It's gonna fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it didn't. But I had actually just gotten released from a knee injury.
Okay.
That I like went to go try to spin the opposite direction and slide down a handrail, and I slipped off of the rail, and my knee like hit the side of the pole that hangs it, that like holds it up.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so my knee twisted and I tore something, but I was like,
Yeah.
I always was afraid to tell my mom because we didn't have like a tremendous amount of money.
Oh,
Yeah.
And so when I got severely injured, I knew it was expensive and I would just try to keep it on the hush. But she ended up finding out about that because I was trying to step into the bathtub one day and I like clipped my leg and fell down screaming. And she was like, "What's wrong with you?" And she knew it wasn't from that moment and I had to
Right.
tell her. So it was too late to do anything. It had kind of healed already, but the collarbone, I was doing that trick after coming back for like not skating for like 3 months, so I wasn't as warmed up as I should have been.
Okay.
And when I did it, I like kicked off the ramp.
Yeah.
So I was like a foot away from where I should have been.
Right, so
And
you're gonna-
as I'm falling back down,
Yeah.
there's nothing there to catch my
Yeah.
feet. And so I'm like falling from like 10 feet up. And I remember locking out my arm and it just like folded. And I remember I hit my helmet, but my helmet was like on still.
Yeah.
But it still hit my head hard enough to knock me unconscious. And there was no one in the park because it was in between sessions. But luckily the owner and some other guy were coming in to like do a plan for a new ramp or something. And they saw me there, passed out, you know, like, and they're like, hey, and they like started yelling. And then my hearing came back first. And then I tried to get up. I didn't even know my collarbone was broken. It was
Right.
broken clean in half. And it was almost coming out of my skin. Yeah, so like I tried to get up on my dominant hand and I was like, oh, boom, and I fell down again and they're like, don't move. And they're like, oh, your collarbone's destroyed. So they helped me up and I made like a sling like this and just bit it.
Yeah.
And they called my mom and my mom like asked to talk to me and she didn't believe me because I wasn't like freaking out or anything yet. I think I might have been in shock.
Yeah, probably.
But I remember just being like, I didn't want to tell her because it was my first day back. She just spent all that money with the orthopedic doctors. I had a feeling she was going to be pissed, but she really wasn't.
Yeah.
I mean, she was more so just concerned that I was okay.
Yeah. Can I ask you to bring your mic out? It looks like it's
fold
pressed
it
up
in.
against your
Yeah.
body. Yeah. I don't know if that's gonna
Cool.
create some sort of
I got
distortion.
too graphic with the story.
Yeah, it's all good. But yeah, dude, it's crazy because thankfully I had a doctor in the family, so I wasn't ever really too concerned about that kind of stuff. I
Yeah.
would like literally just go to his house and be like, hey, you know, I got injured or whatever, and he would like hook it up with a brace, some medicine. He'd just like take it easy, stay off it, whatever. And luckily, I never had like complete compound fractures like that or anything. Just mostly
that was-
sprains.
that was
you know?
bad.
Yeah, and but I had a friend whose mom would always like get pissed when we would go skateboarding because she's just like, you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah.
Like it's expensive. You have no idea how much it's gonna cost. You
Yeah.
know. And so when he would fall and get hurt, he would just be like, oh man, my mom's gonna be so pissed or something like that. You
Yeah.
know. I never understood that at that age. You
Yeah.
know? But now like it makes
Oh, I
so
get
much
it.
more sense.
I wouldn't want to get in, like, we weren't allowed to, like, call for help. Like, I remember once my brother dropped a bar on his head and, like, split it open, and they were like, why did you call for help? And it's like, he's bleeding.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was bad. But yeah, I think it's poverty.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
Probably.
100%, yeah.
I remember going, like my mom, when I moved out of the house, she was like going through the filing cabinets and stuff. She used to keep track of everything.
Oh,
and she was
damn.
like, I just found your like doctor's visits, like all this information. She's like, you know how many times you went to the ER?
Oh.
And I was like, no, it was like up in the high teens or
Yeah.
like early 20s. I'm not sure,
Yeah.
but I had stitches more times than I could count. Busted my chin open, broke my nose a couple times.
Oh.
Was that all in rollerblading?
Just being a stupid kid.
Yeah, just
that's
trying to
fair.
Roughing around.
stunt and stuff. Just doing
Yeah.
parkour before it was parkour.
Yeah.
Well, no, you never got hurt doing that stuff, right? You said. So this
I mean, I think I probably like impacted my joints in the long term.
Yeah, yeah.
Like I think when I'm like older, I'm gonna be pretty screwed just from
Yeah.
jujitsu and everything that I've done.
I mean, yeah.
sure.
You look at a lot of like jujitsu fighters now that are much older. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Like,
They're
I can't get
going
out of
Dealing
bed.
with it now.
yeah, man. Like I think I saw who was it? Diamond Dallas Page, you know, the professional wrestler.
Yeah.
He's actually doing all right though, but it's because he started doing like a really intensive yoga program apparently. So he's like limber as ever, you know. And so apparently for his age, I don't know, he has to be like in the late 70s by now, if not early 80s maybe, but apparently he could just like get up without even warming up or anything, just like going into a full split, you know, no problem.
Oh my gosh.
But I mean,
My girlfriend can do that, but I can I can't
Yeah.
even come close.
I mean, but you need the time to like put in for that practice, you
Yeah.
know, to
Yeah.
just be like doing yoga all the time or something, so you can be like limber.
I hear it's really good for you. I mean, I was a big proponent of yoga
Yeah.
back in the day, for sure. Should probably stretch some more.
Yeah, for sure. So you've always been into like sort of physical activity type of things, right?
Yeah, I used to play a lot of sports actually. You know, I ended up being like a smaller guy, but when I was a young, I would say maybe like 8, 9 years old, I was smaller than most people, but I was
Yeah.
stockier. So I had like, I was also pretty fast. I wasn't the fastest, but I was like in the top tier of fast.
Yeah.
So I actually was like a running back in,
Oh, nice.
in football, like when I was a kid, and I played like first grade, second grade, like all peewee, all the way up
Oh,
until
wow.
junior high, and then
Yeah.
everyone else shot up,
Right.
and I stayed short, and I was like, no, I'm not gonna. There's no point.
Right.
Like
right.
I'd rather just like rollerblade and skateboard with my friends and do that,
Yeah.
and have like time in the afternoon, because back then like football was after school practice,
Yeah.
and I'd rather just go home and goof off.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, you were in Texas too, so
Yeah.
it was like so serious. It was like
Yeah.
you had the morning practice and the evening practice.
I wish we offered more wrestling, because I remember when I quit playing football, the football coaches were telling my parents to get me in wrestling, because I was also like a safety and a linebacker, and I used to like hit people super hard, and
Yeah.
I was just good at taking people down because my center of gravity was low.
Right, right.
Man, if they had wrestling, I can't even imagine where my jiu-jitsu would be right now.
Right.
Oh my gosh,
yeah,
for
I
real.
I know I have the build for it. I just don't have
sure.
the technical knowledge behind it, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised that they didn't have wrestling. That's interesting.
I remember there being private clubs, but
Just clubs,
everything that
right.
costed money, I didn't even ask because I knew the
Oh, of
answer.
course.
yeah.
So,
How much is that going to be, and when do you need a ride? Because
right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised I was even allowed to skateboard because well, I guess my brother was in sports too, so he, you know, you had to pay for like uniforms and equipment usually, and like skateboarding, you know, I didn't realize it until becoming an adult. I'm like, man, we like go through shoes and boards like crazy, you know, and that's money. Like you're just
Yeah.
essentially buying a pair of shoes to destroy them. That's their sole purpose, you know.
yeah, when you're skating,
Yeah,
for sure.
And then like skateboards, they get all jacked up, you know, and they have so many different parts to them, and it's not like cheap, but it's not the most expensive either, but it's still, you know, fairly costly.
Yeah, I think I remember getting like my first pair of rollerblades when I was like 9-ish or 10-ish, and I loved it. I love rollerblading. I love skating, and I had those for the longest time.
Yeah, you never had to like replace them.
No,
Yeah.
they might have been the extend kind, but I don't remember.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but
So-
I did have them. I remember they were big for me.
Yeah,
So
but
I
like
grew
so,
into them.
being sponsored, would they hook you guys up with gear too?
Yeah, they would give us like super crazy discounts on skates.
Yeah, yeah.
Like a fraction of the cost.
Oh, that's
those
awesome.
those rollerblades used to be pretty expensive. They were like a couple
Yeah.
$100 back when a couple $100 was a lot of money.
Right,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
And so there was no way. Like every time I wanted new skates, I had to buy somebody's hand-me-downs.
Oh yeah.
And I would convince them to give me like a cheaper deal, and it was usually from the kids that lived in the wealthier part of town.
Yeah.
Would always get new stuff, and I'm like, hey, what'd you do with your old skates?
Nice.
Like, let me buy them from you.
And that's thrifting, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, now it's like we got to
to.
go to the more wealthy neighborhoods, right, for the Goodwills
Yeah.
up in those neighborhoods to get the good stuff.
For sure. Oh my
The
gosh.
funny thing was, so that day that I broke my collarbone, my mom was actually on her first date with a guy named Joe. And whenever my parents split when I was 10. My dad
Okay.
moved
Okay.
out. We stayed with my mom, and my mom, you know, she was pretty cool about what she did, but she basically just didn't bring anyone else into our life until we were like well into our teenage years.
Okay.
And I think I was like 13 when she started dating Joe.
Yeah.
But it was a couple years before they got like moved in and serious
Sure.
or whatever. But they ended up getting married, and unfortunately, like exactly a year after they got married, he passed away.
Oh no.
And it was crazy too because I had gotten in trouble. My dad, it was kind of weird, but you know, it was my dad purchased that house whenever we were a family still, and
Okay.
we were kids.
Yeah.
And then when he moved out, my mom kept the house, and then my mom moved in with Joe, and my dad moved back into the house and rented it from my mom
Oh wow.
and fixed it up, and then they sold it. So
Okay.
he does like home improvements and stuff.
Nice.
But yeah, he was living with me. I had gotten in trouble. I won't get into the details, but
Yeah.
let's just say I was being stupid, and I couldn't be left alone. So my dad was going out of town, made me go over to my mom's and Joe's house.
Okay.
And while I was over there, I was like helping him put Christmas decorations back in the attic. And he was just getting like really tired, you know? And I ended up leaving. And later that day, I think I was asleep, and I got a voicemail from my mom saying that they went to the emergency room, and come to find out, he just never could catch his breath.
Oh, man.
And my mom was like always worrying and stuff, and he didn't even want to go to the hospital. And she's like,
Yeah.
just bugging him. Finally, he's like, all right, I'll go. Like, just
Yeah.
take me. So apparently, when he got there, they realized either he was having a heart attack or like a blood clot was causing a bunch of problems. I can't remember exactly what happened, but he ended up going into like a medically induced coma, and they did open heart surgery, and he just never came out of it.
Oh, wow.
But he had 2 daughters, so that's what I was saying earlier. So it all ties back in.
Okay.
So he had 2 daughters that were really close to us in age. Amanda was born like 2 weeks before me.
Okay.
And then Kylie was born like a year and 6 months after me. So we were all in high school. Me, my sister Jessica, Kylie, and Amanda were all in high school at the same time.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool to have like 4 people in the same age range.
Did y'all go to the same school? Or?
No, they went to Clements, which was like, I would say 5-10 minutes down the road. But we ended up becoming friends with a lot of the same people.
Sure, yeah.
And so I hung out with them, and like,
That's cool.
yeah, like whenever like the whole partying thing was going on, I would
Right.
party with my high school people, and
Yeah.
then some people from the other high school close to mine, because there's like 3 high schools over there, kind of
Yeah.
close. And then I would also party with their friends, and
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
met a lot of people through them. Some of them I'm still like acquaintances with,
Right, yeah, yeah.
but they're both married now. And I was in both of their weddings. I got to do the last dance.
Really? That's
Yeah,
awesome.
because I made them a promise whenever there's like family rooms at the emergency rooms in
Yeah.
hospitals.
Yeah.
And whenever he passed away, they were like, everyone was freaking out, you know.
Sure.
But they were young still, and they were like, "Who's gonna walk us down the aisle?" And they're just like melting everybody.
Yeah.
And I was like, "I'll do it," you know.
Yeah.
And so I ended up not walking them down the aisle, but they asked me to share their last dance. Their stepdad, who played a huge role in their life later on, ended up walking them down the aisle,
Okay, yeah.
which I thought was cool.
Absolutely,
And
yeah,
I got
yeah.
to share the last dance with them.
That's
That is.
amazing, dude. That's
Yeah, it was
so
cool.
Really
nice.
lovely. I was
Yeah.
wondering, I was like, well, what happened if that was like the beginning of your blended family, and then, you know, what happens after that? Did y'all stay close and everything?
Yeah,
So that's
it
cool.
never really changed. Like him no longer being a part of the equation didn't affect us at all. You know, I can still call them whenever. They'll pick up the phone. We don't talk as much as we used to, but one of them lives in Pensacola, Florida. The other one lives back home where I'm from. So
Okay, yeah. So y'all are you're all in different places.
yeah, and then my older sister Jessica's in DC.
Oh, wow. Yeah, yeah. So that definitely makes it a little bit harder to stay in touch, as often at least. You
For
know?
sure.
Yeah, yeah. I remember when I first moved out here, I lost a little bit of contact. I just had, I guess, frequency, you know? I wouldn't be able to call anyone as much. And obviously, when we were all living together, I would just go over, you know, hang out. But yeah. So what other kind of stuff were you getting into? You just sports and rollerblading in high school?
Yeah, so I this is a cool story. So I actually like got really good at playing basketball, but
wow.
defensively and like more of like point guard. Like I was just intelligent, right? So I was like reading what was going on around me, and I was never afraid to pass the ball.
Okay.
So a lot of people just hog the ball when they're younger,
Sure.
right? But I would like read what was going on, and if somebody juked the guy guarding them, I would set him up and like
Yeah.
just hit like a really good lead pass. So I started becoming like a really good support player.
Yeah.
Even though I didn't, I never really went to the basket. Everyone's way taller than me, right? But I had a decent shot, and I could pay attention to what was going on.
Yeah.
So freshman year, I decided I was going to play basketball. But then right before the like tryouts or whatever it was, I was like, man, I'd rather just still keep doing what I'm doing. I don't want to practice after school. And I ended up not doing it, but they asked me if I was wanting to do the statistics.
Okay.
So I did the statistics. I was always good at math, and I had like a
Interesting.
Palm Pilot, and I would basically track everything that was going on during the game
Wow.
and log it into a log of who took shots from where, their
Yeah.
percentages, all that stuff, and kept track of all the information.
Oh,
They were a really good team. They ended up winning state a couple years later.
Very nice.
And Dexter Pittman, that was a senior when I was a sophomore, he ended up playing for the Heat, and he was on the UT's championship team.
No way.
Yeah.
That's wild. Wow. And do they usually give that sort of responsibility to students, or was this kind of just like a one-off?
Sometimes. I mean,
Okay.
it ended up working out for me because during that class, I got to just kind of goof off. If I had homework from another class, I mean, occasionally they would ask me to like move equipment around, but for the most part, I didn't really have much to do.
Okay.
And I got real cool with everybody. So
Sure.
like, they would, you know, I had access to things sometimes,
Yeah.
and I would just hook people up, and
Yeah.
it was cool. It was a good experience. But
Yeah.
one day they asked me to run my sophomore year. They asked me to run a note to the Natatorium, which was also doubled as our like admin building for all of the sports in our district.
Okay.
And it was like walking distance from my high school. So I walked this note over there, and I saw a sheet of paper that said like diving camp. And I was like, oh, that'd be cool to just like do crazy stuff off a diving board. Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
athletic and acrobatic. So I went. I had no idea what I was getting myself into.
Yeah.
I didn't know anything about diving. And I thought I did okay. Apparently I did not. I found out later because the coaches told me later that like, you know, I just didn't have it in me.
Whoa. that's
Wasn't
wild.
flexible, just didn't really understand the whole concept of how to make the board bounce and do all that. You gotta be graceful, and I was just being a brute.
Gotcha.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're like flipping off a roof.
That
Yeah,
makes
yeah.
sense.
So I'm just trying to use like muscles to do this, and
Yeah.
there was no grace to what I was doing.
Right.
But I had fun doing it. So
Yeah.
I decided to ask the coach and the head of the what is it, the aquatics or whatever. She did like
Okay.
managed all the different swim teams for the district.
Yeah.
I asked her if I could sign up, and she's like, well, you know, if you can develop the dives that you need to be able to do it, you can do it. And I was like, cool, this will be a way for me to like do a sport, but it's kind of a weird sport. Not many people do it.
Right. Yeah.
But I was trash when I first started. But in my head, I wasn't. And
Yeah.
I never changed my perspective on that. Like I always in my head, I was going on the board like I'm the best diver that's ever dove.
yeah.
I'm gonna do
I mean,
this.
you had the right mentality.
Yeah, I
for
was just
sure.
like self-motivation
Yeah.
to the extreme.
That's what it takes.
But I ended up getting like disqualified my first meet.
Oh,
and, like,
damn.
but I didn't even care. That's the thing. Like I never like I didn't give like other
Yeah.
people would have like quit and been embarrassed, and like I didn't care. I was more embarrassed about having to be in a damn Speedo than losing in front of everybody. I didn't care.
Right, yeah.
But the same year, I kept practicing, and we ended up getting a TiVo. So it was like recording, and then it would play back, and we could watch our dives. And
Yeah.
then I
Nice.
started using YouTube videos to like go back and forth. And I don't think we had YouTube on our phone back then. I think I had to like
No, yeah.
go home and like watch it, and then
Yeah.
go and look at my dive and know how to change what I was doing wrong.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
We didn't have a diving coach though. That's the craziest part.
How
So
did y'all have a team?
we just dove. It was weird. We were just like over there, you know, practicing every day, doing the stuff. And I think two of the people had like outside of the school district, like a club team
Yeah.
that they went to. So they would come back and share knowledge with us. Like, oh, you're doing it wrong. Do it like this. But
Sure.
who were they? They were just
Right.
kids too.
Yeah.
But the same year that I got DQ'd, I ended up winning district.
Oh,
Whoa,
sweet.
okay.
And so I went to regionals, and I think I got like 4th or something, or 5th. I didn't get close to the top. So the way it worked, you had to get 1st or 2nd to go to state in
Okay.
regionals. And at the time, there was this kid who ended up going to dive for Miami, like on a full ride. He'd been diving since he was like 4 years old,
Okay.
and he broke like every record in the state, and he was just a monster.
Dang.
He was in our region, so I wasn't going to beat him. And
Yeah.
at the time, there was a couple people better than me. But the next year and over the summer, I decided to lifeguard at that pool
Okay.
because it was also doubled as a public pool. And then every time I made my rotation to have a break from the stand, I would dive.
Okay.
And then I would just dry off on the stand as I went around, and then I would go dive. So like, I would stay there for like another hour after I got off too.
Yeah.
So I was just really self-motivated and practiced a lot.
Oh, cool.
And then my senior year, I don't know what meet it was, maybe like 1st or 2nd or 3rd. I broke the high school record.
Wow.
And
Nice.
it was set in like the 80s, so I was, pretty stoked about that.
Yeah.
But I kept re-breaking it, and so I just kept getting better
Okay.
and better and better.
That's awesome.
And I went to an invite meet at U of H, and a guy approached my parents and asked them if I was going to go to college to dive, and they're like, we haven't really talked about it. He hasn't been doing it that long. Well, they sponsored me to go to like this club practice and gave us like a huge discount.
Wow.
And I used to get off of I would practice at my school after school, and then I would drive like 45 minutes, maybe an hour away, to the other side of Katy, and I would go
Okay.
dive over there with the club coach. And both of those coaches there had made it pretty far in like college diving. They were like
Okay.
nationally ranked at one
Yeah,
point,
yeah.
so they knew what they were doing. And I
Yeah.
got really, really good, really quick.
yeah, actual.
I could
guidance.
have walked on to a couple colleges, but I didn't have my head in the right place at that time.
Okay.
I was just acting crazy.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I was more focused on like partying and having a good time.
Okay.
Right,
And
yeah.
But when I was diving, I was like dedicated.
Right. When
But
you were there.
it wasn't. It didn't consume my entire life like
Yeah.
it would have had to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that was impressive for the first year that you did it to go as far as you did. I mean, you started off getting disqualified and then finishing in the way that you did is pretty cool. But
Yeah, it
then
was cool.
to get scouted, like that's a big deal. So, what did you want to do when you were?
Well, it all came to kind of a tragic ending though. So the way that diving works in competition, you have to write like a code on a sheet, right? And like each dive has a different code. and each dive has a different degree of difficulty.
Okay.
And so whatever, when they hold up the numbers,
Yeah.
they'll take the high, the low, and the medium, right? And then they'll add them all together and then multiply it, or I think they average it, or they add them all together and they multiply it by the degree of difficulty, something like that. And then that's how you get your score.
Okay.
So basically, you and me can be going against each other, and you could be doing a bunch of easy dives and nail them, and I could be doing a bunch of super hard dives and do decent and have a higher point score than you.
Right.
So there's kind of a game to it, and it's like really what can you do, right? Better divers are going to have more points.
Interesting.
But I made a mistake, and our coaches, I'm not going to blame the coach, it was my fault, but they're supposed to proofread it. And like I said, we didn't have a dive coach. So the assistant swim coach proofread our sheets. She didn't check. I put the wrong dive down in place of the best dive, my highest scoring, highest degree of difficulty dive.
Okay.
So I was supposed to do a front 1.5 with a full twist.
Okay.
And I ended up having to do a front 1.5 with a half twist, which I had never done before. And so I didn't know what to do. And they told my coach, and they're like, he can't change it. But I was supposed to go to state that year.
Yeah.
I was supposed to get second place. That kid that was like super good, his little brother was going to get first because he was a freshman. And then me and the other guy were close, but I had always beaten him at multiple meets throughout the year. So I was seeded to go to state.
Yeah.
And I had to just throw that dive, and I completed it. I didn't get a failed dive, but it was horrible because I'd never done
That's
it
insane.
Yeah.
So you were able to pull off, it was a front 1.5?
with a half twist.
Yeah.
So
but
when you do a full twist, the whole dynamic is completely different.
Yeah, but isn't that considered more difficult, the full twist opposed to the half twist?
Yeah, it is. So but the reason why it was harder for me is because I had never done it.
Sure, yeah. But they docked you for doing the full twist.
No,
right?
they didn't let me change the code on the dive sheet. It was
okay.
written wrong. I wrote the wrong code down.
Oh, so they thought you
So
did-
I had to do the dive that I wrote down,
Yeah,
which
okay.
is not what I was supposed to
Yeah.
do.
Gotcha.
And that one, and I think I lost by like 17 points to him, but I would have been like 30 or 40 above him had I got the dive that I
Oh
wanted.
my gosh! And you
insane.
can't just adjust it. Like that is, I hate that. I hate that so much. I mean, I know there's like lots of technical things that
Yeah.
go into
Yeah,
it, and
it's
you've got to be on your game or whatever.
You gotta
but
play
then-
the game, too.
Yeah, not having someone be able to see that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Shout out to my mom though. She used to show up to every one of my meets, and like she didn't know what was going on, but I would look to her and she would be like, yeah, that was good.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
that's
man.
Yeah.
awesome.
Parental support is so vital to anyone's development, you know?
For sure.
It really is. Well, that's awesome. And so your mom was really supportive of like all the things that you were doing.
Well, the good things I was doing.
The stuff that you didn't get in trouble for doing,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
okay, that's fair. That sounds very mom-like.
During all this time, did you have any goals or ideas in mind for the future, like where you wanted your life to go, what you wanted to do or be?
No,
Yeah.
no, I didn't. That's the thing. I was like super confused about what I wanted out of life.
Okay.
And I was just trying to have a good time, I guess, and remain happy.
Sure.
It kind of ties back into it. It's a little weird, but so during that diving experience, I had a couple friends that dove with me.
Okay.
And one of them, his name was Osman, and he used to lifeguard at a pool close to our neighborhood. So he was always jumping around on the board. He came in the same year that I did. Nice. And we were actually born on the same day, the same year, January 1st, 1990.
Oh, crazy.
But he was from Bosnia, and he came over before he spoke English, so they held him back a year.
Oh, wow.
So he was the year behind me.
Yeah.
He actually was the only guy, and he may have been the only one ever to go to state at our school as a diver. And he went with a lower score than what I got. So he always rubbed it in my face that he went to state, but he never beat my record. So I was like, bro, you never got higher than me. I would have gone if I was in that. You got lucky. It was just like circumstantial.
Right, yeah.
But this
System.
the story is going to take a dark turn, and I'm sorry again. But
It's all right.
so like 3 or 4 years after high school, he ended up wrecking a motorcycle and dying.
Oh, man.
No.
Yeah. So like my stepdad passed away when I was 17. He passed away when I was 22.
Oh, dude.
And the messed up thing about that was there was like a car full of my other friends who were behind him when it happened. So they saw it happen and they tried to help him, and he ended up dying in like a
Yeah.
bunch of their hands. You know. Which like really screwed up one of my friends pretty bad, and like I wish I was
imagine?
there for him more, but I was kind of. It was a hard thing for us to go through.
Yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Especially so young, you know?
Yeah,
you
that's
don't really
exactly what I was
start
thinking.
encountering things like that a little bit later in life, but yeah, sometimes.
The crazy thing about it too is he was Islamic, right? So they have a different burial procedure than the way that most Americans do it.
Okay.
And they don't like embalm, I don't think, and a lot of times they don't really do anything to the body.
Yeah.
Well, his family his family went to the viewing, and then my friend that was there that was like holding him when he passed away, he was like, I have to go there to get closure. You should have been there because we were all very close in school. And he's like, you weren't. You have to come support me. I can't go alone. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to see him like that. And he's like, doesn't matter. You're doing this for me. So suck it up. And I was like, fine. So I went with him, and that allowed me to make peace to it, man. It really just reality checked me in general, probably like to this day. Like, because, I mean, his eyes were still open a little bit. You know what I mean? He was just like, not living anymore, and there was nothing done to him. They just pulled him out of a cooler on a metal table with a sheet, and it was just like a brick to the head, man. For me, it's like, this is life. Be careful. You know what I mean?
Right.
It kind of just made me realize, like, because at the time I was driving crazy we can talk about that in a minute, but I was driving pretty crazy in the car that I had, going really fast all the time, and that could have happened to any of us, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a huge like wake up call, paradigm shift. And
you would think it would have like did more, but I kind of buried it. You know, it was hard. It was a hard thing to swallow.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, especially at such a young age. You said you were 22.
I was 22. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Life is still so, I don't know. It's like life is still so permanent at that age. You know, you never feel like you're gonna go anywhere really, and you're just always gonna be here, and everything's gonna be okay.
Yeah.
You know, they always say that we feel super invincible in those early
For sure.
years. Yeah. But so you said you were driving crazy. You were into cars too.
That happened accidentally. I really wasn't. So like, I remember my parents were like communicating about trying to get me like an old, cheaper car to help me out or whatever.
Just for transportation.
And my mom worked at a State Farm Insurance. So anytime somebody that was a customer of theirs would go to sell a vehicle, they would call them and tell them, hey, we're putting our vehicle for sale, this and that. So she was like the first one to hear about it. And my dad was telling her like, oh, it has to be a stick shift car. I don't want him to not know how to drive standard, because if one of his friends, they're all partying a lot, if one of his friends is drunk and has a standard car and Joey's not, he'll be able to drive, you know? That was like his whole thing, is you should learn how to drive everything. So they ended up getting me like a 95 Honda Civic. And it was standard. And I didn't know anything about Civics. I didn't know anything about Hondas, modifying them, nothing. And I was driving home one day, and I was, you know, a standard car, if you know what you're doing, you can make it go faster than an automatic, you know, whatever. But I was driving home over this bridge, and a guy that had the same exact car as me, but it was like slammed real low to the ground. He had wheels on it and exhaust, and it was definitely something else going on because it was way faster than my car. And like I remember like punching it on this bridge to get away from him, and he just like went right up my ass. And like I never pulled away from him, and I was like, man, that car is definitely faster than mine. I wonder how he made it fast. Again, I knew nothing about cars, mechanics, nothing. He followed me home. The guy, and he ended up becoming one of my best friends. He actually came out and stayed with us for a weekend. Yeah, he was super nonchalant though. Whenever we got to my house, he was like, hey man, I know this is weird as I'm not like
not gonna kill you.
Yeah, this is not like I'm not like threatening you or nothing. He's like, man, your car's clean, bro. How long have you had it? And then we started talking. And I was like, I didn't know anything. And he was telling me about his car, and he popped his hood, and he had an Integra LS engine in it. And a couple modifications done to it. And he'd already been fixing up cars for a little bit. And we have like immediately clicked and became homies. He introduced me to a bunch of guys that were a little older than me that were all fixing up Hondas. I got lucky that I met them because they steered me in the right direction. I didn't go in like a ricey, like Fast and the Furious direction.
What's the difference between that and like with the direction you went? What would you say? Like it's just more legitimate, or?
Yeah, it's more respectable. I mean, like for people that fix up cars, there's like a scene, I guess you can say, and it comes from Japan, right? So the JDM scene in Japan is different than the way that you would think people would fix up cars, and it's actually just really classy, really clean, and functional. Like they're not about like doing a bunch of stupid stuff. You're not going to put a spoiler on a car unless you need it. You know what I mean?
So it's not like aesthetics, it's more functional. Based, like
no body kits, just lowered for turning, you know, tighter suspension, tying everything in together, and then swapping the engine and making it fast. So I started messing with that car. I think we did the suspension first. I ended up getting some white wheels that had like a red lip on them. They were pretty clean. And then the engine that was in there had a knock. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but
I remember
I slipped a rod bearing.
Yeah, my dad was a mechanic, so I remember him mentioning things like that, like, you know, using language like that.
Yeah,
like
it was done. You can fix it sometimes, depending on how bad it is, but it's a Honda engine, and back then, there wasn't. It wasn't too expensive to fix it.
Okay.
So, but here's where it got funny. I didn't have a lot of money, but I was like, "Hey, Mom, check this out. I have an idea." She's like, "What's that?" And I'm like, "My friend has this engine, that's a better engine than this one," and I like hyped it up. I'm like, "It's a better engine. It's gonna last longer.
Right.
It's more expensive, but it's better, and I'll pay you back every penny." Which I did.
Yeah.
I paid her back like right away. Like I had a job, I was still staying at home, but like I just paid her back every single paycheck, like $300 or $400, so I paid it off.
Very nice.
But she loaned me the money. She didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
And if you're watching this, I'm sorry. But the guy that helped us put the motor in was like, "She doesn't know what we're doing, right? I don't want to be tied to this. Like I don't want
What?
to." Yeah, because man, what we did was I ended up buying an Integra GSR engine,
Okay.
and that's at the time was like the number 2 thing you could do to it to make it go super quick.
Okay.
Right? It was like the second fastest engine that was available to directly swap in the car like
All
that.
right.
And it was quick.
Yeah.
And I did a bunch of stuff to it. And we used to go down to Westheimer in Houston and drag race.
Yeah.
And I didn't lose to a lot of other Hondas.
Yeah,
Only a couple
yeah.
Hondas beat me. But I was like racing Mustangs and stuff like that.
Would you get paid for those races if you won?
Occasionally we
Yeah.
would make bets and go like in the back roads and stuff,
Sure.
but mainly it was just like for fun, the adrenaline rush.
Okay. Yeah.
That is so scary. Didn't you like think of like car accidents?
No,
Yeah.
no, not when you're doing it. The dumbest thing I ever did, after I had the ECU chipped and I had like a light tune on the car, there was no more governor, right? So the car would just go as fast as it could go.
Okay.
The speedometer on the stock one was like 130, right?
Right.
The needle one time was going all the way upside down, touching 0 and twitching.
Oh my
And
gosh.
my friend in front of me said we were going 160.
Okay.
And we were just flying down a back road at like 2:00 in the morning.
Man.
Anything could have came out in front of us.
Yeah.
Done.
So how long did you have that vehicle for? Because you couldn't tell how fast you were going if you were going above 130, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I had it for a while, and then I started I ended up taking the head off of it, and I was gonna have the head rebuilt.
yeah.
Because it was smoking really bad at one point, and I needed to change the valve seals.
Yeah.
So I had the head cleaned up, put back together, and while we had the head out, I noticed that one of the motor mounts wallowed a big hole in the block,
Oh,
and so that
damn.
you can't fix that.
Yeah.
And I talked to some welders, they're like, "I'm not touching it."
Right. Yeah. Because it's all.
Yeah, so I was heartbroken, but I saved up some money, and then I ordered an engine from Japan, and I was
nice.
gonna do this. I mean, for those people that aren't into Hondas, there's a bunch of you can do.
Yeah.
But I was gonna build a Frankenstein engine, basically. I was gonna put a
Right.
block from this Honda, and I had like a Honda CRV SUV engine,
Uh-huh.
and I was gonna take that block and put this head on it from the Integra and
Dang.
this transmission, and then put it all together, and it was gonna be really quick.
Yeah.
But like, as I was doing it, my friend that was helping me, we had like a major fallout.
Aw.
And he left all of his tools, and the engine, like half the engine was out of my car. The other, like the block was still in the car.
Yeah.
Transmission was all taken apart. And I didn't know how to do enough on my own at the time to fix it. And man, I remember another sad turn in the story. Sorry, guys.
Wow. Yeah,
But
it's all good.
my grandfather from Hawaii was staying with us because he had esophageal cancer and he was dying.
Okay.
And he was in the house, and he was always trying to teach me lessons on his way out. Like,
Sure.
to this day, I really appreciate that he did that. He knew
Yeah.
he was dying before I accepted it.
Yeah.
And he just would give me like good wisdom. And I remember complaining one day. I was just like, man, like I'm never gonna have my car running again. Like I don't have a car anymore. This sucks. I don't know what to do. And he's like, you have the internet, right? And I'm like, yeah. He's like, I would have had that engine in there already.
Yeah.
And he just made me feel like a dumbass. And I was
Right,
like,
yeah.
all right, I'm gonna go. So I went and
Wow.
did a lot of research, watched a bunch of videos, and just got to work. And like 8 days later, I started the car.
Right on.
No
And
way.
yeah, my
That's
mom came
awesome.
running outside like, oh my God, you
Yeah.
did it,
And were y'all just doing this out of like the house
Uh-huh.
garage?
Yeah,
you
in
just
my
had
garage.
lifts and things like that? Or
I would
what?
borrow them from people that had them.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, wow, that's
Borrow
great. Yeah,
certain
'cause you
tools.
need some
Community.
heavy duty tools for that kind
Yeah.
of job.
But then I ended up selling it. And then
Yeah.
I got like another Honda, I guess. Well, I got an Acura RSX Type S, which
Oh.
was another faster car.
Mm-hmm.
Sold that and got my current car,
Okay.
the 2009 Honda Civic Si, and then I just bought a 94 Honda Civic EX that looks just like the one that I had, and I'm tearing that one apart and rebuilding it in my garage right
Uh-huh. Oh,
now.
very
okay,
nice.
So
Oh,
it
yeah.
stayed with you. You have
Yeah.
all that.
I was working on it this morning, so.
Side project. That's awesome, dude.
That's
yeah.
cool.
You ever think about like rebuilding cars back up and selling them or anything like that?
No, for me, man, this one came out of like desperation almost. Like I was just looking into getting a new vehicle because I wanted something else.
Okay.
And I've only had pretty much the same 3 cars. Like the first Honda Civic felt like the RSX when I was driving the RSX. The RSX feels like the SI that I'm driving now. They all feel the same. I feel like I have been in the same like seat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
they're all standard and they're all,
Get that.
you know, kind of set up the same.
Yeah.
So I'm comfortable driving these kind of cars, but looking into newer cars, they're like 30,000.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, I'm not paying that because I know how much it costs to build it, and that's crazy.
Right.
And then
Yeah.
they're set up in a way that you can't do your own maintenance on them anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I have come to find just basic little things that I try to get done in my car or her car. I'm just like, what? Like, I can't. You have to go buy this special type of tool, or you got to take it into the dealership because they just don't.
And then they're going to
sell
charge
it.
you $2,000
Yeah, yeah. I'm like, how?
on a car you're paying $800 a month for.
Yeah, how is this a thing now? Like, I remember my dad used to work on all of the cars. You know, he would buy them from whoever, you know,
Yeah.
down the block, you know, from a lot somewhere in town, and then just build it. And then he would be able to do everything, go order the parts himself, you know, put it in. Like, it was totally fine. And so, like, I learned a little bit from him, you know, just being around him, watching him, showing
Yeah.
me. And, like, now I try to do that stuff on my own. I'm like, I need to go get a special tool for this. Like, it's not like the stuff that I have doesn't work, and or like the spacing even sometimes they don't allow you to like get in there.
Right.
So
That's the problem I have with my SI now.
yeah.
So I got to a point where I was like, okay, I'm going to swap the engine in my car now.
Nice.
I'm going to paint it. I'm going to lower it. I'm going to do this, that, and the other.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And then I start thinking about it and I'm like, well, number one, you can't really do much when it comes to swaps on this car because it's already set up to only receive one type of engine.
Yeah.
Right? And there's nothing better than it that fits in it.
Yeah.
You can make good power out of that. So then it's like, okay, do I buy another engine and build it on the side and like turbo it or supercharge it and put it in there? That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I just miss the old days.
Yeah.
So I was on Facebook Marketplace and I found that one and it had a blown head gasket.
Okay.
So I pulled the engine out of it. And instead of fixing up my current vehicle, I'm fixing up the old one because it's just the power to weight ratio, right? So putting the engine from a car that's made to push, or from a car that's heavier,
Yeah.
in a car that doesn't weigh that much,
Right.
automatically makes it faster.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And the engine that I'm going to put in there would never have they would never have given the car that much power.
Yeah.
You know what I
It's gonna
mean?
fly.
Yeah, it's gonna be
lift
fun.
up off the road.
But what I'm doing though is I'm actually restoring the whole vehicle. So I'm taking apart the entire suspension, replacing what I want to, and then putting new bushings, new tie rods,
Very nice.
and just making it like mechanically very sound.
Yeah.
And I'm building it to last. The goal of this is
Yeah.
to always have a car that gets in the 30 to 40 miles per gallon range that I know how to fix.
Oh yeah.
That's
And
There you go.
you know,
Longevity.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
For real.
I'm basically trying to hack the system. Like I'm
Right,
not paying
dude.
30K.
Yeah.
Even if I put 15 in the car. You know,
Yeah.
at first my dad and some of my friends were like, "Bro, this is a money pit. Like, you're stupid." And I'm like, "How much do you pay for your truck?"
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
I don't have a car note, bro.
Right.
So like even putting half of that into this for a month, I'm still winning.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's crazy.
That is a great point.
Especially with the roads out here, dude. Like they just don't fix them and constantly
No.
just like
Well, that's
bumping
the sketchy
around,
thing
you know?
about being in a little tiny slam to the ground
Yeah.
Honda Civic too, though, is that you're gonna break bumpers and shit.
Yeah, for sure. I've hit my bumper several times. It's so
Yeah.
low. I
tires.
I got a little Ford Fiesta, you know. It was a gift. Like, don't get me wrong. I'm super grateful for it, you know, because I was not anywhere near being able to afford a car on my own, you know. And so, very fortunate in that
Yeah.
regard. But yeah,
Thank you.
it's like the roads out here are just terrible.
That's so bad.
we went to go get our brakes checked the other day, and they're just like, you know, you might need to get a suspension change soon because
Oh, thanks.
they're like, yeah, you know, it's Austin Roads. What can you tell you? And I'm like, yeah, no, just I don't know. I'm gonna try to hold out as long as I can for that, you know.
Yeah.
The cool thing about doing it yourself, though, is that once you know where everything is and how to do
Yeah.
it, you don't ever have to take it anywhere.
For sure, yeah. I actually want to try to get there. Because I'm currently, I know you're aware of the like financial situation we're in, right? With trying to regain like a well-paying job, and one of the things that she's considered is like going to like a tech school for mechanics, you know, just to like cut costs there too. It's like we
Because I
can,
just want to know how to do things.
yeah,
Right.
I don't like not knowing how to do things.
yeah, and just not have to rely on someone who could potentially upcharge everything, you know, from parts to service, and just like we have no say about it.
we
you
don't
know?
have a point of reference.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. So
And I'm kind of that way with my girlfriend's Jeep. Like, we've taken it to the dealership a couple times, and they've given her a quote to fix something, and I'm like,
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
we're not doing that.
Right,
I'm not
yeah.
paying $1,600 for that, and you're
Yeah.
not going to pay $1,600 for that.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude, yeah.
You know, because I know I could watch a YouTube video. It's going to take me 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, I need to start in the school of YouTube. There's so much information.
There is,
Yeah, there
and
really is.
that's honestly like the only way to go, because if you don't know how to do it, you used to have to read the manuals, or somebody that knows how to do it shows you face to face.
Right.
Now it's like, man, I've been studying this video of the guy. There's certain things that I'm doing to the car I've never done before, right?
Okay.
Certain things I have, but I'm getting new wheel bearings and new
Yeah.
hubs and all that stuff, and like you need a machine press for some of these things.
Right.
So I'm watching videos of how guys are getting around not using a press and all this
Really?
stuff. Yeah, and there's like
Wow.
little tricks to all this.
That's crazy.
That's good
So
information.
yeah, so it's cool.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I've kind of had the mentality about everything, and you know, I think my dad was like working on his truck in the driveway when I was a kid, and I think if I remember correctly, he was replacing the fuel pump.
Okay.
And he had the little book from AutoZone that tells you everything
Yeah.
about the repairs or whatever.
Yeah.
And I came out there and he was like, "Hey, I need you to hold this thing." And I'm like, man, I don't want to get dirty." He's like, "Just hold it." You know.
Yeah.
We had a funny relationship like that. So
sure.
I go down there and I'm holding it and I'm like, "Man, this is stupid. Why don't you just pay someone to do it?" And he was like pretty pissed that I said that. And he's
Yeah.
like, "I'll never pay a man to do something I could do my damn self." He's like, "You better listen. You better learn, boy."
Right. Yeah, man. I know. I usually try to run everything that I need to get done by my dad. Just
Yeah.
for, I mean, his information might be somewhat out of date, but I mean, shoot, he's retired now. He worked for the school district's transportation system for most of his life. You know, worked up his way up the ladder. But
As a
now,
mechanic?
yeah, as a
That's
mechanic,
cool.
and now he's retired. But now he's working at AutoZone, just like delivering parts. He's like, I'm done. But they're always going to him for like advice, because he's like, man, these sales kids, they don't know anything. All they know is to like get on the computer, type in the part, and that's
Right.
it. They don't know
Yeah.
what they're selling, what they're talking about. Like they're just like, yeah, it looks like we have it. I don't know. Let me go grab it for you.
Yeah, they don't know anything. And
Yeah.
when I walk in there, I just try to be humble. I'm not like in there to make them feel stupid.
Yeah.
And if they suggest something, I'm like, "Oh, I'm okay, bro. Appreciate it."
For
You know,
sure.
just
Yeah,
like- I just keep it cool.
What
I
are
don't
you
want
working
to.
on?
yeah. But my dad hates it though. He hates when they come and ask him for help or ask him questions. He's like, I'm just a delivery driver, man. Like, this is,
Yeah, for
this isn't
sure.
my job description. I'm done with that. I don't do that anymore.
But it's always like that. Like I said, my dad owns his own renovation company.
Yeah.
Man, everyone in the family, anyone that knows him, they're always calling him when
Yeah.
there's an emergency.
Right.
And you know, he's a good dude, so he'll go do it. But now I've become that guy. Like
Oh,
I do all
nice.
the maintenance at 10 Planet Austin.
Oh, really? Right on. Yeah.
Like kind of the whole time I was doing everything, I always had like a side hustle of working with
Right.
my dad. So I would just go randomly work with him,
Hell
and
yeah.
I started picking stuff up over the years.
Dude, that's so good though, man.
Yeah.
Like the knowledge that you have, you know, is so vital and
It saved
useful.
me a couple times.
Yeah,
being
man.
able to just go like work construction and like just walk on and understand what's going on.
Yeah,
has
exactly.
helped.
Yeah, you're marketable, you know,
Yeah.
for sure. You have such a good like knowledge set, you know,
Yeah.
and skill
Yeah, I was
with
gonna
it.
say the skills. I mean, that's proven.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I got to build Oak Hill.
Oh yeah.
The
I say I got to build as if it was like a you know
Yeah.
a great thing that was offered to me. No, Curtis was wanting to expand, and they had the spot. Casey and Brian are over there now.
yeah.
And I went in there with one of our students' dads, Refugio, and we got there. It was like completely just like still set up like an office, floating ceilings, different walls
Yeah.
everywhere.
Okay.
And we gutted it.
Yeah.
You know, I put a mask on, put a bandana over, and just
Wow, so it was just you two?
us two. And then Caden, one of the other kids, was helping pick up
Really?
stuff. So me and him just went in there with sledgehammers and sawzalls and cut all the frame out. And
That's
just,
intense, dude.
it was a lot of work.
And it's a
Whoa.
lovely gym now. If you ever get to check it out, it is fantastic.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
put a lot of work into it. It was like 3 or 4 months straight.
That's amazing, dude. I mean, yeah, again, like, you know, just goes to show how useful having all those skills and knowledge is. You guys just got to do it yourselves and cut costs, you know, shit.
It does cut costs, but you know, at the same time, I always do things the right way. I'll
Yeah.
never cut corners.
Yeah, yeah.
Because my dad's always been like that, and it's expensive to do things correctly sometimes.
Yeah.
So like doing stuff around the house, doing stuff like. If anybody's ever wanting to like do something to their house, and I'm like, hey, if you want to do it right, it's gonna cost money.
Yeah,
you know?
man. Yeah. Like, it reminds me, God, like, my dad was so similar. He, after him and my mom split, he left the house to my mom and went and lived in an apartment, you know, for several years after that. But dude, he was like, this apartment, you know, it was like one of the cheapest rents I could get, and I was living on my own. So he was like living off of like peanut butter and jelly for, you know, months on end. But he was like, I fixed everything inside the apartment myself. Stuff kept breaking when the maintenance guys would do it, because they were just like cutting corners. They were just like jimmy rigging it, you know? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do it. And I'm going to give you guys the receipts, and you can compensate me for it, you know,
Yeah.
and they would like take off of his rent or whatever. Apparently you can't do that anymore, but yeah, he
No.
did that for a while, man.
Yeah.
So I
they do.
kind of have that going on with my landlord now, to an extent. Like, I've stopped 2 major leaks from happening.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And fixed the situation and let her know, and I don't ever charge her for it. She paid me and my dad to replace her hot water heater though,
Very nice.
just because it went out.
Yeah.
She was like, you know, if you want to do it, do it. If not, I'll pay somebody. Totally cool.
Yeah, that's crazy.
We gave her like a huge discount,
Yeah.
so she's always been grateful that I'm there, and I've always been grateful of her.
Yeah.
That's
And
awesome.
she's kind of met me in the middle on
That's
rent.
That can be
Obviously,
very
it's not
rare.
free, and it's not like
Yeah.
I get big chunks taken off, but
Sure.
I'm renting it for less than it should be market value.
Yeah, man, those are great relationships to have too. You know,
It's
you're
old
like
school.
network. I know exactly, and it
Mm-hmm.
just seems so much more personable for one, right? And it just seems better, like in so many different ways. You know, it seems a bit more honest and genuine. You know, it's a trade for a trade. Like,
People
Right.
taking care of people.
yeah, exactly. Like,
I feel like I have an old school mentality like that
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
You know, I always have.
absolutely, yeah. I wish it was that way in more places. Like
sure.
this place that my dad was at was a full-on complex, right? So it was just like his unit, you know. And I think with landlords, you might be able to get away with that stuff a little bit easier because yeah, it's you know face to face. It's their property, you know, opposed to like I don't know some like distant company that owns the complex, you know, and these people are just like managing it essentially.
Right.
But, yeah, man, that's crazy.
So wait a second. You're in Houston for all of this learning and growing. How did you get to Austin?
So when I was 21, I started dating this girl who went to the same high school that my sisters went to.
Okay.
And her dad was a teacher and had an opportunity to get like a higher position in a school district in Fredericksburg, which is not that far from here.
Yeah.
And she came to my house bawling her eyes out one day, like, I'm moving, you know, they're not letting me stay. What are we going to do? You know, I love you, blah, blah, blah. And like sold me a pipe dream of like, move with me, right?
Yeah.
You know, we had fun, but it didn't end good.
Yeah.
We moved here together. Thank God we didn't get one place. We had separate apartments.
Oh wow.
And
Really?
yeah, thank God.
Yeah.
And like 3 weeks after we got here, we broke up.
Whoa, 3
Yeah.
weeks. That's
You
sudden.
left.
Yeah, and I was working for an oil field manufacturing company, so it was the best job I ever had. But it was a lot of work. I was getting metal splinters in my hands every day.
Yeah.
Covered in black magnum grease. It was a dirty job.
Whoa.
It was like it's not like all the guys that had worked there their whole life. They were all crippled from all the shit they had to do. Like, they were like limping around like on their way out of there to
That's
retire.
insane.
So it wasn't as a smart thing. But I was getting into the oil field, and actually this is really funny. I completely forgot about this until you brought this up. One blunt changed my entire life like a fork in the road. So before I met that girl, like right before I met her,
Okay.
I was about to go offshore for the oil field.
All right.
And I was gonna just do that for a living. And I had always smoked weed, so I stopped smoking to get clean. And the guy that was helping me was like my mom's friend's boyfriend. And he was like, yeah, you have to get clean for like 60 days and then I'll give you a referral.
Okay.
So I want no chance of you failing this drug
Right,
test.
right.
Yeah.
So I got clean, and then I told him, hey man, like I'm ready to go. And he's like, let me call the guy. And he's like, hey, I'm sorry, man, to get your hopes up. It's not happening right now. A lot of these companies are downsizing. I'm sorry. And so that night, I went and got some weed. And I remember looking at it as I was breaking it down to put in this blunt, and I was like, you still shouldn't smoke this. Your urine's clean right now. Just like,
Yeah.
go do something different, you know? 'Cause I always had ambition for wanting more out of life than like just doing what my
Okay.
friends were doing.
Okay.
And I ended up rolling it up anyways and was like, I smoked it. Well, then he calls me the next day and he's like, yeah, dude, he calls me. He's like, hey man, I know I told you last night that it wasn't going to happen. He's like, I asked him to take you on for this special subsea program as a favor for me. And he signed off on it, dude. You're going to be making like 6 figures. And I'm like,
Sick.
so like I didn't tell him right away. I was like looking into getting fake piss, and I'm
Yeah.
telling my friends that are clean, like, yo, let me buy some
wow.
of your urine. And
Yeah.
then I was like, no, I don't want to like take a chance of ruining this guy's relationship with his friend. I'm like, let me just be honest.
That's good.
But then like a week later, I met that chick. So had I had not smoked that blunt, I wouldn't even be here talking to y'all.
No,
I probably
probably
wouldn't be doing jujitsu. No
Yeah.
one out here would know me.
Right.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You'd be off somewhere else. Probably.
One blunt changed everything.
That's insane. That's crazy that you can pinpoint it to
Yeah.
that moment.
Yeah, I thought about it one day when I was out here. I was just like thinking back about memories, and I'm like, damn,
That's what it was.
That's a one fork in the road moment.
Yeah.
That is interesting. I love life moments like that because you really can look back and like it was that. It was that right there.
And you should have listened to your intuition. I don't know. How do you feel about that now? Like,
Man, I wouldn't change anything because I wouldn't have met my girl now, who I love to death. I wouldn't have met all the amazing people that I know. I wouldn't be in the jiu-jitsu scene. I wouldn't be the manager at 10th Planet Austin. I feel like everything has happened a certain way.
Yeah.
But I did go through a crazy time out here in Austin. So instead of just like running home, I remember calling my mom. I was like, yo, I'm gonna break my lease because I had money saved up from the oil field. I was like, I'm gonna break my lease and come home. And she's like, well, you're not coming here. And I'm gonna tell your dad you can't go there either, so figure it out. And I'm like, man, what the hell? Like, I was 22, but I thought I always would have a place to run to, you know? I'm like, no, she was basically like, no, you're grown, go figure it out. Which I'm glad, you know, if you're watching, thank you. She made a man out of me by forcing me into it. But she gave me good advice. She was like, how much money do you have? And I'm like, I have enough to not work for a few months. She's like, well, don't work, go have a good time, relax for once, you know what I mean? You're always doing crazy stuff. Go meet people. Give the city a chance. You might like it. You're sitting here pissed off in an apartment. Go outside. Go do something.
Right.
And so I started going to 6th Street. It's not what she meant.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the first move when you get out here, though, right?
Right,
because
you're
like
not-
6th Street. Okay.
Yeah, because there's nothing like that anywhere else. You know? But it's a you know, they always call it like the devil's playground, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time out there. Worked my way up and into management of the bars, and then spent a couple years doing that. Managed a restaurant for a little bit, trying to get out of the scene, and then. When COVID hit, I just became obsessed with jiu-jitsu because I had all this free time.
Okay.
And opportunity arose. Gabe offered me a job at 10th Planet part-time, and I kind of just started working there. I quit the management job and then was doing both simultaneously. And then the way the cards fell, I just ended up being the manager over there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, man, that's kind of like... it's a very like typical story when people move out here to Austin. You get into like the service industry and you're working like because everyone seems to know each other in that field, you know, and they all go to each other's restaurants and go to each other's bars and stuff like that. And that's how it used to be. I don't know if it's still that way now, but like
A little bit.
yeah, and everyone they party hard in that scene too, right? And they just get caught up in that lifestyle.
Dude, it was bad.
Yeah.
If you guys know Zach Moore, right?
Yeah.
He used to always tell me anytime we bring up my pre-COVID time at 10th Planet Austin, he's like, you were boozing. Because I would come in at like 6 or 7 o'clock at night just reeking like whiskey still. And I would be hungover, and then I would just roll and get all dehydrated, and then I would drink as much water as I could stand to drink, and then I would go get drunk again. And the way we were partying, man, it was like, I developed a tolerance to alcohol. Like it got bad. It was at a point where like I would drink like 10 or 15 shots of whiskey and still look you in the eye and have a conversation. You could not tell I was drunk.
Right. Yeah,
That's crazy to me.
Would you still remember a lot of that? Or
No.
You would black
No,
out?
well, it depends. Like sometimes, but it took a lot to make us black out. Like when you push your liver like that, you start to just like function.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
What was crazy though is I was never like a at-home drinker. I think I was like more so just like engulfed in the outing.
Right.
You know, I always wanted to like be in the party.
Yeah, because it's a whole experience, like being out and about, drinking and bar hopping or whatever.
Yeah.
Man, like one of my favorite things was day drinking. I was all about that. I loved day drinking, you know, because then it would just go into the night, and I was like, man, this is a great day.
I won't get super detailed because it was crazy, but I've had some horrible experiences day drinking.
Yeah.
Where I like blacked out by 2 p.m.
Right.
And
Yeah.
just like then the night did continue. Like my friends would drag me back out, and you know it was like
sometimes, yeah.
they're supposed to be letting me chill, you know, and they're just like, come with us, come with us, keep partying.
I mean, some of my first experiences like that was here, and I hadn't lived here in Austin yet. I was still in El Paso, but we would come out for like South by Southwest or ACL or at the time Sound on Sound. You know, we'd come out for the music festivals. They were like the closest to us.
Right.
And yeah, it was like we'd spend a whole week, you know, I'd get time off of work, time off of school, and I would just like come out here and party the whole week. So yeah, it was exactly like that. Like we'd be hammered, pissed drunk by like noon, go back to the apartment, whoever's apartment or dorm or whatever, just
keep
like
drinking,
pass out, take a nap, or keep drinking or eat some food, and then wake up and then go out for all the nighttime shows, you know, and just continues. Yeah, it's wild times.
It's bad.
I never did cocaine though, so I was always the first to pass out, and it took me a while to realize. I'm like, why does everyone stay
still
up?
awake?
But I'm like dead. I can't go on.
Yeah, it was pretty popular. But, so is this Were you drinking and doing jujitsu and working? Like,
Yeah.
how did this work?
Man, it's just I've been through some crazy times over here. But like, if I could be my own psychologist, what I think was happening was, you know, with the death of my stepdad, one of my best friends, my grandfather, and then like a bunch of my friends went to prison and they were always in and out of jail. I was just not around good people. Whenever I got out here, I think I was just numbing myself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To like not think about everything that was going on. And
Sure.
like I was just like in a negative headspace. Like I didn't feel like I had anything positive to look forward to. I'm like, man, life sucks. Like
Yeah.
everybody dies, you know, there's people dying around me. And like to this day, there's been so many people that I know that have died from like fentanyl overdoses, heroin overdoses.
Yeah.
Like just, I've experienced a lot of people
sad,
around me
yeah.
dying, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
But ultimately, it's just made me a stronger person and appreciate things more. And I look at it a lot differently now, you know?
Man, that's great. That's good that you were able to come out of that, you know, opposed to like
Yeah.
so many other examples that you have, right?
So yeah, I was trying to do jujitsu while doing that, but those two don't mix. Like I was
Yeah.
getting off of work at like 5 a.m, going to bed at 7 a.m, and then how do you go to open mat if you get off at 5?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, it just wasn't happening. And then I was like, well, let me just sleep 5 hours, go train, and then go take a nap. It doesn't happen like that
Yeah.
either. You're gonna, you know, work yourself to death.
For sure, yeah.
But there were several times where on 6th Street where like I wanted to keep my foot in the door somewhere, but didn't have enough hours to like work only there, and I would drive back to Houston and do construction with my dad.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I did that for 9 months one time where I worked Monday through Friday with him in Houston, and then would drive back after work Friday night, door guy on 6th Street Friday night, Saturday night, bartend happy hour Sunday, leave after happy hour and drive back down there. So I was like staying at his house for free while working with him while paying rent out here just to have enough
right.
money. But I did that, so I worked 7 days a week for like 9 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was a time where I helped build a couple bars down there too. So like
Oh,
the whole
really?
thing what I did with Curtis with
Yeah.
Oak Hill, like I've done that for other businesses, you know.
Oh, wow.
And there was a time where I was working Monday through Friday and bartending Friday and Saturday
Yeah.
as well. So I was like, I did that for like 8 months too.
Damn.
I've just been working like that. I never look
sure.
at it like I'm working too much. I'm always just like, I have a lot of energy. I have a lot of ambition. I want to do a lot of things, and there's
That's
not
good.
enough time.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know,
That's
so I
good.
just do it. And,
Right.
my motto's always been, I'll sleep and rest when I'm old.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
That's good. And now you're doing jujitsu and managing. You got anything else going on the side? I can't.
Just that Honda.
Yeah.
No, I have some side project like business endeavors that I'll keep quiet for now until they become like a real thing. But
Right on, yeah.
I have some ideas, and eventually I'll probably own a bar.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I want to own my own 10th Planet.
That'd be awesome.
And you know, I know that everything I've always done has been intentional. Like whenever
Yeah.
I was managing that restaurant, I didn't do it because I wanted to be a restaurant manager. I did it because I wanted to learn how to run a food establishment.
There you go.
So I can own my own bar that serves
Yeah.
food one day.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I told the owners that going into the interview, like this is
Awesome.
why I'm here. I was honest with them,
Hell yeah.
and they, you know, they helped me and they gave me a lot of information. And the bar thing too. Like I've always just tried to like steal information around me, take it in, soak it all up, and then find a way to make it make sense for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like you do a really good job taking in information and using it to better your life. So that's
Yeah.
really cool.
Trying to.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, that's a great way to be. You know, you seem like you're a very practical person. You know, and very big on utility, right? Just making things work out in the best way possible, and just like try to get rid of all the unnecessary aspects to like I don't know the system. You know that we've been sort of forced into, but
Figured out a lot of stuff. I haven't figured out how to live for free yet.
yeah, I mean.
That's a hard one.
I don't know if that's even possible, right? That might be one of those idealistic utopias that we can never achieve.
Well, I guess the hack to that is making enough money through multiple streams of passive income to the point where it feels like living is free.
Right. Yeah, yeah. Just
That's
having
the goal,
work
right?
done, and you're just kind of like overseeing it all.
I feel like we don't realize it, but that like all these business owners actually have multiple businesses.
Right.
And
Yeah.
so it gets to a point to where they're not putting in all their work to the one. They have people doing that work that they trust, doing it for them, and that way they can just oversee and then continue to create businesses.
But even overseeing, a lot of people don't know. But like Curtis, for example, that dude works his ass off. Most people don't see what he does.
Yeah.
But like he is always on the grind.
Yeah.
Like I don't even think he sleeps. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
blows my mind like how active he is, engaged
Really?
in everything.
Yeah.
And people don't understand, you know, they look at a successful business and they're like, man, that must be nice. It's like,
Yeah.
it's actually not. Like,
Yeah.
this guy works a
lot
lot,
of
you know
work,
what I
yeah.
mean? And
Yeah,
his
it takes
head
a
is
lot.
spinning all the time.
Yeah,
And he manages it well. He makes it look easy, even though it's not, you
Yeah.
know? So I've always tried to put myself around people like that, you know, and just try to apply all the skills and efforts and positive energy that
Right.
I have to offer and to try to better that business, but ultimately to continue my own path and my own growth.
That's amazing.
You know,
yeah,
and
yeah.
just try to look at people as mentors. And I've learned a lot about business from Curtis. Learned a lot about business from Adam that I used to work in the bars from. You know, I've learned a lot about everything I've ever done. I've been just
Yeah.
paying attention and writing things down mentally.
That's awesome,
that's
dude.
good.
Yeah, I mean, we're excited to see where it goes, man. You know, and we'll probably, hopefully, you know, if we can figure things out too, you know, we'll still be around to watch it
Yeah.
all happen. And you know, of course, we're gonna keep going and training as much as we can. You know, if all things considered. I think it'd be great to have you back on, and we can talk a little bit more about your time here in Austin and
More
as far as,
jujitsu.
like, jujitsu. Yeah, you know, talk about that journey. I'm sure that's a whole nother episode. You
For
know?
sure.
So,
Yeah,
Get
exactly.
into that. But yeah, man, that's great. Keep doing what you're doing, you know, and we appreciate you, you know.
Yeah,
for,
thank you so much for helping us where we're at as well, and you know, just being so supportive and everything. We've been really appreciative of that.
Yeah, absolutely, dude. And thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
being
For sure.
a guest on our show. We
For
really
sure. Thanks for
appreciate
having
that.
me. I was excited when you guys asked me to come.
Yeah, hell
That's
yeah,
great.
dude.
My
We're
girlfriend's
excited.
got a crazier story than me, so hopefully we can convince her to come on. And
We would love that.
Yeah, we would love to have you on if
Yeah.
you want to. If not, you know, it's okay. But
Maybe.
maybe we can hang out first and we'll build a little bit of rapport.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit, get a
I
little
mean,
more
really,
comfortable.
we just love to hear everyone's stories. I
Yeah.
mean, we say this all the time, but y'all are so interesting. I mean,
Everybody
we
is.
would have never known this
Yeah.
Dude,
information.
we
about
have
you.
no idea that you were so multifaceted before
Yeah.
this, you know? It was
Yeah.
Before we just knew you as like, yeah, Joey does the front desk at 10th Planet sometimes and he rolls. He's a student
Yeah.
also, you know?
Yeah.
Like other than that was it.
Yeah,
and
we
like,
didn't know anything.
Dude, you've had a wild ride. You've had
have.
so many different experiences.
cheated death several times.
Yeah,
Ups and
it's
downs,
crazy.
yeah.
Like it's amazing. Yeah. So again, thank
That's
you
why
so
we
much
love
for
this.
coming
Yeah.
on. Yeah.
Yeah, man,
we
thanks for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Thank you.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing your story with publicly like this too.
Yeah.
We know that takes a lot. You know.
Yeah, we
For
totally
sure.
get it. It's weird. It's awkward. But I mean, we're small. Who's going to see right now? Except for our incredibly loyal followers. We love you.
Yeah, thank you so much for your support, guys. But yeah, all right, well, we'll catch you guys next time. All right, thank you for joining us. If you want, you can follow Joey on Instagram.
Yeah, at Joey_10P.
10P, yeah. I mean, you heard how skillful he is. Maybe hit him up for a job or something. I don't know. Just saying.
Also,
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel for my car.
Oh, sick. Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
yeah.
Plug that. Yeah.
It's Immortal EJ1.
Okay.
EJ1's the chassis code for that year's Civic. So
Alrighty, sick.
Oh, cool.
Immortal because it's gonna last forever, hopefully.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah, I'm
fun.
documenting the build, so subscribe and check that out. It's
That's a
pretty
great
cool.
Heck
concept. I love that.
yes.
Yeah, and we'll definitely plug that in the descriptions
Yeah.
too. Okay, we'll link that in the description so
Thank
people
you.
can hit it up there. All right, cool.
Like,
Good to
comment,
go.
subscribe.
Appreciate you guys. Later.
Thank y'all.
Thanks. Dude. That